Yeah, do the middle one. I'm going to try not to swivel around. Definitely a bit tricky, but definitely have to
And this, are they high stools or is it low table?
But they're not very comfy, I can tell you that.
Hi all, if we could just get your attention, we'll get Jonathan to turn around. Nick, can you confirm we're live remotely as well?
Yeah.
Okay, right, there we go then. So, good evening ladies and gentlemen, croeso cynnes iawn, a very warm welcome to you all for the first Newport County All Fan Forum of the season. Really grateful to so many of you for joining in the room tonight, and I think we also have about 67 kind of people joining us remotely, so I really appreciate the interest that everybody's shown in this. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Arnie. It's my privilege to be chair of the Supporters Trust, who in association with the club have been tasked with organising the event tonight. I'm also kind of sit on the board of directors, and I'll be your host for tonight. Joined by Mike Everett, who is secretary of the trust, also one of the directors, and has held, as many of you will know, any number of kind of posts within the club. And whilst obviously it's me and Mike that you'll want to hear most from, we're really delighted to be joined by Huw Jenkins as chairman of the club and majority shareholder. So really grateful for Huw for joining tonight as well. So format is pretty straightforward. We've set this up as a Q&A session. So we'll have a mix of questions that were submitted in advance, but also we'll be taking questions from the floor as well. We'll probably try to alternate that to mix that up. Genuinely, you can pretty much ask anything that you want to, as long as it's kind of vaguely football related and football club related. All that we ask really is that you keep the questions respectful, and also try to avoid duplicating questions that have been asked already, because that way we'll be able to get kind of maximum coverage and cover as many topics as we can. We'll play it by ear a little bit just around how long we run for. We'll certainly try to build in a break, but yeah, the opportunity, what we want to do is to try to get as many of those questions covered off as we can. So I will ask, when asking a question in the room, particularly for the benefit of those people joining us remotely, I think Doug will be kind of on the roving microphone, and if you could just introduce yourself if you would, I think that'll be great just for the benefit of those who won't be able to see who are asking the questions. And I should also say that for kind of historical reasons, we're recording the event as well as obviously streaming it live. So just to make sure that people are aware that what you said will be kind of there in history and available for others. So for information, we probably had about a dozen or so questions submitted in advance. If anybody wants to see the list, we got a couple of copies printed off of those. They break down into a number of categories, so kind of investment in the club, some stuff around facilities, whether here or training ground. We have got squad makeup, a couple of questions around that, and then what I've kind of put together a bit of a lucky dip category, so we can see where we go depending on how we do that. And my suggestion was just to mix it up, we'll do alternate questions as we start from the floor and from those submitted in advance, and I'll give someone the opportunity to pick the category of investment, lucky dip, playing squad and ground and fixtures. So I was going to go for one from that have been submitted in advance. If people are happy with that, Kev, what's your choice of topic? Do you want to go ground, investment, squad, or lucky dip?
Squad first.
The squad first. Okay, so I'll go first to the list there. So the first of our playing squad questions came from Daniel online. And this is, it's no coincidence that form has improved with a strong, experienced League Two spine in the team. with that in mind, what plans to keep Rick Townsend, James Clark, Shane McLaughlin at the club for the 25-26 season?
Thanks, Andy. Good evening, everyone. Probably starting off with the hardest question straight away. Yeah, I think it's quite appropriate. Obviously, I think things the last few weeks, results have improved, and that coincides obviously with that question in particular. I think there's a couple of things linked to that. I think changing the formation obviously was one thing which suited obviously Clarkey coming back in, Shane moving inside from full back I think was a good one, and getting back into midfield, which I think is his best position when I watched him last year as well, and obviously that's worked well with Nelson doing that, and yeah, looking at obviously our goalkeepers performed well over the last few weeks as well. They've been obviously instrumental in making sure we get results. So all those three things have obviously helped us over the last few weeks. I think coming back to obviously the main part of that question is, yes, those players are important to us. The change of formation helped to get us obviously the points we needed. And looking ahead to next year, I think there's always a case to keep players with us. I think I've said that many times since I joined the club. But it always comes down to one thing: it's got to be right financially to suit the club. While we will make offers to the players, I'm a firm believer in making. You've got to make the right financial decision as well, and making sure that's right for the club going forward. So there's two parts to that answer. Yes, is keeping those players with us important for next season. Secondly, it has to be on our terms, and that's how I always feel when we negotiate in making sure contracts are signed and players stay with us.
Thank you very much. Doug, I'm going to ask if you've got the microphone, because we'll take a question from the floor if we can. So hands up if you want to ask a question. I'm assuming somebody will. The gentleman there was very quick out of the draw. So if you could give your name just for the benefit of those joining remotely.
Jonathan Pask, Huw and the board. I just want to ask it, before we had that run of results, were you concerned at any point that we were going to lose our league status? And you're just saying about the club running on financial grounds, to be secure. Would us losing our league status? Because if you don't want to bring in players, that's going to threaten your budget, but you haven't got the players to keep you within that league. Which is the priority? You staying within the league or staying within the budget?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, I think both are vitally important. It's hard to distinguish one from the other. You can't get carried away making decisions that may preserve our league status. I agree with you, it's important, and that's 100% the first aim that I would say. I agree with you, every season is a priority. The second part of that is we can't go backwards where we are financially either. I got involved in a club because there was many reasons, but I got involved because there was a need for somebody to come in and try to help the club going forward. And I said from day one that the financial side has to be looked at and has to be a priority. But I agree, there's a very fine balance in making sure you financially were stable and making sure the team is strong enough to go up on the pitch, which, as you said before, the last 6 games, it was results weren't going for us, and yes, obviously everybody I think was quite concerned at that point. But we must remember, we're only halfway through the season at that time. We can't get relegated when we're on 23 games. Yes, the first half of the season was probably quite a difficult watch for all of us, because there were so many changes in the summer, so we can't forget that. Apart from a new coach bedding himself in, we obviously had nearly 20 new players coming in, all adjusting to making sure they can compete in League Two. But we must remember the season is longer. The opposite happened last year. We had a good run and that went up until February, and I think we won 1 game in 15. So it can go either way, but I do come back to the point 100%. We must maintain our status at League Two and make sure we push on from there.
Thank you, Huw. I'm probably going to go to the list of questions a second then. So we had a bit of a group around investment. So no surprise, this is a question to Huw as well. We're getting off fairly lightly here, Mike. So
Yeah.
we're doing okay. So
Nothing.
from Jonathan, might be Jonathan Belcher, I guess. Huw, what are your current thoughts on bringing in further investors to help push our club on to greater times? If not, do you see this being a consideration at all in the near future?
Thank you. Yes, another important question. I think the aim when I got involved from again, sorry if I seem to be repeating myself, but the idea was to get the club financially stable. I think that would attract more investment and more people who may want to get involved in the club. I think there's a big decision to have there between you as Newport County supporters, the trust, and myself to decide if that's what we all want to do, because we can't forget, if we bring more people into the club with additional funds, there's obviously an issue with shares and dilution for all of us. So we need to fully consider that and talk about that in anything we think of doing in the future. But I think my aim from day one was to get the club financially stable, so it was an attractive club, whether it's for us going forward, whether it's for the trust going forward in the future with the supporters, or other outside investment coming in. I think it needs to be a football club that's stable, that its debts are paid, and to make sure that it's comfortable going forward and it can make the right decisions at the right time, not just financial ones, because it needs the money to pay wages. And I think the decisions need to be thought through, and you need time to think those through to make the right choices.
Thank you. If people in the room are comfortable, I might go to another one here on the same sort of theme, which is a little bit more specific. So we've had a couple of questions around around future involvement of John Pratt, so the person that was kind of at the heart of the alternative bid for to take over the share kind of last summer. So from Mark, submitted in advance, John Pratt has indicated that his money is still good to put into the club. Would Huw be interested in another investor coming on board? I guess it's that specific question, really.
Yeah, and I'll just go over the same thing, really. Yes, at the right time, and needs to be the right person, not just taking money for money's sake. Because I've seen many times, and you can see around the country, many times in football, that can be done just to put money in and just survive month on month. You need people who can bring things to the table, but it's a decision that can't be taken lightly, because too many people, in my opinion, on the board going forward, that may not be right for the club long term. And I don't know nothing about that question, Jonathan Pratt, as he is. I got no thoughts either way. I'm just giving a general view, really. It needs to be the right people at the right time, and my thoughts on that hasn't changed.
Thanks very much. I got one online which was similar from an Adrian W. Which is that you, Ado? Are you happy that covers your question as well? Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody in the room want to take the next question then? No? Okay. Well, otherwise we'll kind of revert to our list. So I'm going to go lucky dip this time around. So there's Mike, you want to pick this one up, or I might do this one. So this is about walk-on music and hi-ho silver lining. So just you can see the kind of flavour of lucky dip questions that we had. So we'll have a little bit of a couple of light ones as well. But please can we walk out to Warning by Skindred or something of the like every game. Much more original than Hi Ho Silver Lining that randomly appeared. Do you want to take that one, Mike?
Yeah, I can take that one. Personally, I hate Hi Ho Silver Lining, as did Jeff Beck, who was sorry he ever wrote the thing. Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think there's things we can do better with the walk-on music. Vary it a little bit, whether not sure whether it's Skindred, it's not my cup of tea, but that doesn't matter. It's we can do different things. There are so many places that run Hi Ho Silver Lining, Hey Jews, and all this. We can do better, and I think we can do different. If people got particular suggestions, get them to us. You can send it via the trust email, and we look at it, and we can talk to the guys and gals who do the match presentation. Personally, I'd have Welcome to the Jungle, because that's what it ought to be. It ought to be a jungle for anyone coming here. But suggestions welcome, and we look at them and talk to the people who do it. We don't have to be the same.
You wanted to comment as well? So I think it actually did, I mean, just picking up on one point in the question about kind of sort of randomly appeared, I think it's actually been with us for quite a long time. So as do the kind of walk-on songs for lots of clubs. And I'm going to give a plug here at this point. So I'm a big fan of Colin Murray on a Sunday morning on BBC Radio 5, and he does a thing called the Great Football Songbook, which each week does something around the history of the things that clubs walk on to. You'll Never Walk Alone, all those kind of things. The Z-Cars team for Everton. It's a big, if you're at a loose end on a Sunday morning, it's worth a listen. And I'm not on the BBC payroll, I can assure you. So, okay, so if we go stadium and facilities, then one of our kind of other categories. So what's the progress on a permanent training facility came in from Carl.
Yeah, as we talked about, obviously, when we had the meeting last year in this room, I think it's important we try to find the right venue. We are still looking. I think finding a plot of land of some kind that's either used initially, that now it's used for rugby or for football. We've been looking around to try and find somewhere where we can negotiate and take over. I think that's a preferred option if we can. We are, as you know, sharing facilities with Newport Live, the council, the FAW of Dragons Park, USW in Pontypridd. So we go around different venues to try and make sure we got training facilities for the lads during the week. Not ideal to keep moving from site to site, but they do it. But the preferred option is to find a plot of land that we can buy ourselves, and preferably if it's being used for rugby or football. And or if any of you have got any ideas that there may be a few pitches, 2 pitches would be ideal. We've been around loads of places looking, and Jonathan in particular is helping us to look and try to find somewhere suitable, and hopefully find somebody willing to negotiate and leave us buy that plot of land off them, because I think that's the best solution we can have, is owning that ourselves, and then finding ways to develop that really is the challenge. And hopefully over the next few months we will come up with something. That's what we're trying to do. I think if we got it on our own, in our name, is the right thing to do, because any of the shared options are costing us big money year on year. We roughly pay out about 200,000 a year in rental facilities with all of these, including our academy facilities, and that 200,000 can be better spent if we can find that plot of land with, even if it was a pitch and a half, whatever we can find to develop on our own. That's got to be the ultimate challenge, and we got to make sure we find that over the next few months.
Thanks very much. Anyone from the floor? Or I'll keep going to my list. Okay, I've got Ollie and Colin, so Doug, time to spring into action. Don't think I've ever never seen you move that fast, Doug.
Good evening, everyone. Oliver Allen. I think the big buzzword that Huw has certainly mentioned is sustainability on all fronts. On the topic of financial sustainability, how far do you think the club is from being financially stable? Is there the footwork in place to ensure the club is financially sustainable? Is player sales going to play a part in that to ensure the club is financially stable? Where would you like to see profit from player sales going to?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, the idea, as we've talked about, bringing younger players into the squad that hopefully do well for us, and we may end up over the years may end selling one or two and bringing money in. That's only going to help us just to move along as a club. It can help us to increase the player budget, and help to move things along considerably. Obviously, if we can find that land for training facilities, all those things, any player sales we can bring into the club over a period of time is going to be a big help going forward. Sustainability at the minute, we still, obviously, I've been here roughly a year, 18 months, something like that, and we're still working our way through where we are. I don't mind saying, there has been quite a considerable bit of money put in month on month to keep the club ticking over, and obviously we're trying to make sure, especially next year, that reduces. I think that has to be the challenge, to try and do it. But hopefully over the next few years, with everything obviously coming together, and with one or two player sales, if they do come off, which they've got to be right for us, the right time, and make sure we can replace them adequately. We don't want to have a weakened squad. We want to make sure we still keep going forward. But hopefully over the next 12 months, one or two things working in our favour, we can start to get closer to a break-even figure than the club has been over the last few years.
I might just add to that as well, there's kind of any number of really positive things as well. So, obviously one of the key things that keeps a club like ours going is support coming in through the door. And I think it's been really encouraging to see that levels of support have held up even when we weren't doing so well on the pitch. And it's in a really good place there, I think, to where it's been in the last few years. So, yeah, fantastic. And there's a big part there that people in the room here, and obviously the wider fan base, are really important to that. Yeah. So, and we're also really proud of what the trust is doing there to kind of put some the funding into things like the academy, and the things that have that kind of community flavour about them, just to make sure that, as you say, that the club can be then spending its other income on other outgoings. So, yeah, an ashamed plug for the trust there. We might come back to that a little bit later on. Okay, I'm going to go. Colin was in the room as well, so Doug, you might kind of just in front of the camera here.
Evening, Huw, Colin, Everett from the Trust. I think we're both admirers of Huw Whitmore. We were just having a chat earlier that thinking he might have made the difference as a breakthrough in a frustrating game on Saturday if he'd been fit. What's your assessment of the Welsh Prem talent pool, and whether, from the scouting the assessment we do, we think there might be a few more Huw Whitmores where they're young, hungry and affordable?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Yeah, I think that obviously Huw Whitmore's done well in his first year. I think it's important to us as a club. There are two things there. One, obviously finding talent where there is, obviously in the League of Wales, and that's number one. Obviously, bringing players then from part-time to full-time is a little bit different, and they've got to acclimatise to that, training every day of the week. But I think it's a good thing for us. It's not just the players. I hopefully you'll all agree, but obviously bringing young Welsh players into the team. I know we've had many Welsh players in Newport over the years, but I think we need to, where we can focus on that. There are two things with that. One, obviously there's a financial level when they come up from League of Wales, so we can afford the salaries better to make sure our wage bill is capped at a good level to maintain. And then the other side of that, obviously they're local, so you're not paying for players travelling, you're paying for players to use, whether it's hotels, whether it's giving them accommodation allowances, all these things that add up to budgets. And the first thing I thought when I got involved is obviously where we can, and again it might sound wrong, but where we can find players locally equal standard, I think it's best for us to do that as a club, because obviously you're reducing your costs, but it's not just a financial cost. I don't know if you're aware, but so many players we had last year, and there are a few this year, still travelling when they have days off. They travel back home to Liverpool, to the north of England. They don't travel home on the bus after games because they don't live locally, so they're all going off in different directions. I used to hate that when I see that happening. Even managers, when they come from the different parts of the country, are going home to their wives and families. They don't travel on the bus. You might have 7 people on a bus going home. To me, it lacks everything you want to develop as a football club, which is commitment, atmosphere, all the things you need to develop a good squad of players. They need to be on the bus, they need to be local as much as they can, and it is difficult in League 2 because you don't pay them enough money for them to move houses and relocate with their families. It's just a very difficult one, but we have got that choice when we go out looking for players for recruitment. Taking a player from Sheffield United reserves or taking someone, it's difficult to see how they will end up settling in this area and giving full commitment to our football club. That's my view on that, and it comes back to the good players we can find, and obviously we just recently took another one in Keenan Patton from Barry. He was obviously originally in Cardiff City with the reserves, and he got released. So it's up to us to monitor these players to make sure they're good enough. There may be one or two that will be, and then probably others that won't be, but we've got to try our best to make sure we can pitch the ones that are.
Okay, thanks Huw, and thanks for the question, Colin. So I'm going to go to my lucky dip. Well, I think no, I won't. We'll go to stadium and facilities. So I think this came in from Ed. So I'm assuming it's Ed who's in the room here as well tonight. So Dragons chairman recently said over £100,000 has been spent on feasibility studies for future uses of the cabbage patch. That way, discussions are underway with partners. Have County been part of talks? What is our stance on the land's future use?
Yeah, I haven't had much feedback from anybody on that. Jonathan Wilshire obviously works with us at the club. He's nodding no as well at the back. Obviously the Dragons went ahead and looked at that, and as owners of Rodney Parade and the ground, obviously they're entitled to do that. But they have mentioned that I think that if they do redevelop it into an all-weather 3-quarter, AstroTurf pitch, that it'll be available for different people to use. So whether we'll get the use of that, we'll see in the future. But as far as that's all I know really to give you an answer on it.
So so there's some of those conversations that have been taking place, I think probably with the City Council, kind of in the sort of general scheme of how particularly the leader of the City Council is really interested in trying to breathe some life back into Newport. So the kind of conversations going around developing the city centre, but also very interested in what the future use here. And I think there are some really good models around of football grounds where they have some space and some facilities like that, and how they can be used to really sweat the asset, I suppose you would say, look at in commercial terms, around how you get people to use the ground on a regular basis, those facilities, whether you can then get hospitality and wedding events and all the rest of it. So I know, as I say, the City Council are really interested in how they can do some of that. I know the Rodney Parade have been talking to in that kind of forum. It makes sense. It would be a great thing for us all, wouldn't it, for that to be a much more usable facility, that if we could then use it on a Saturday and get people here a couple of hours before and spending some money and showing some interest in the football club, bringing their kids along, would be a great thing to do. So we, I guess, really like to see it developed, and we'd love to be able to kind of make some use of that as well. So, yeah, it's a really important part. All of those things around how we might provide some of those community facilities for the club would be in everybody's interest. Literally, the club, Rodney Parade and the Dragons, the council, everybody's well-being and health would be kind of benefited from doing that sort of thing on the site. So I think, yeah, really encouraging that those kind of discussions are going on. Okay. Anyone from the room that wants to ask a question? We've got one over there, Doug, if we can.
Hello, I'm Logan Fennell. I've been a match-going fan for the past couple years, and it's really nice. Rodney Parade is one of the best match day atmospheres. I think you would agree, Jen's at the front. But obviously during that little time where the lease for Rodney Parade was coming up, for us staying and us not signing it yet, there was a lot of discussion with fans of us possibly moving. There wasn't a lot of positivity about that, but I'd just like to know if there was a few discussions about it, looking at possibly moving stadium. I personally would love to stay here as long as possible, but if we obviously if we possibly rise up the leagues, it might get to a point where we outgrow Rodney Parade and it's only plans for possible expansion, or if we look at moving sites of the stadium. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it was just everybody that come on to me really when I came involved with the club, that they felt it was good to be part of Rodney Parade. The fact they were close to the town centre and everybody could walk here and go to pubs and things around the area was always a good thing, and we made that a priority then to make sure we obviously met with the Dragons and obviously signed the new lease or new rental agreement. So that give us at least some clarity for the next 10 years as things are. But you're right. I think that that if we ever get to that position where we are successful and we want to consider doing other things, obviously I think I think everybody would agree in the room, we'd be quite happy to look at those things in the future. But I think we've got we've got many things to deal with over the next few years to get there. But yeah, we can't shy away from that. If we can be successful and move the club forward up to League One and beyond, you never know what could happen in the future.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I mean, we had quite a lot of discussions kind of over the lease. We were pretty limited, I guess, in terms of your alternative options for where you were going to go. We definitely love to be in a position where we're thinking about outgrowing kind of the capacity that it's got there. But yeah, as Huw said, we would love to be in that position of having our own kind of facility, while still recognising that it is great where it is. That's one of the real characteristics of the ground there, is its central location and kind of that experience. So yeah, but I mean, are people aware that the kind of is a EFL requirement that the 10-year rolling lease as well? So it is something that you end up, you need to commit to long term, and as I say, it's rolling. You need to keep that in place because it's one of the requirements that they want for football clubs, is that they've got a stable base where they're going to play their football. So yeah, but we love it out there, don't we? We love the noise coming from the sides there. So. Okay. So I might go lucky dip on this. It sounds that feels like it ought to have some kind of a theme tune going on in the background, but and it's probably one that either Mike or I will take. So it was from Russell, and it's directed, I guess, a little bit towards the trust. So please reconsider how you sell tickets for big matches to trust members. I live in Kent, so can't get to Newport very often, and despite being eligible, I was unable to buy a ticket for the Man United game as there were no online sale and phones weren't answered. Mike, do you want to take first go with that one?
Yeah, so as part of your trust membership package, those who are members, there is a priority ticket scheme. Clearly it depends on the game, the level of the game, and what we have available, which is clearly different for away games and home games. So it's all in the membership benefits policy, which is available online. Basically, trust members will get a priority allocation. Platinum and gold, it depends on the game, but it'll tend to be first dibs, and then it flows down. We do run that in conjunction with the club, because the club have also got their points system, whereas the more games you go to, the more points you get, and so that puts you up the pecking order a little bit as well. As far as phones and things not being answered, clearly from a trust point of view, it's difficult to answer that because we don't answer we don't run the ticket office. So I can only apologise on behalf of the club, really, if that's proven to be a difficulty. But say the priority benefits are there for the trust. I'll do another unashamed plug, as Annie has said earlier. It is a benefit. When these games come around, you will get a priority. But please visit the membership benefits policy on the website for clarification, and also we can the next time something comes up, we can talk to the club, we can talk to the ticket office manager and the staff, and to make sure that those who wish to ring in and do it that way rather than online get their opportunity.
Thanks, Mike. And I'd probably just add a little bit to that. I think we would all recognise that the arrangements for that Man United game weren't ideal. We just did not have the information for trust members on the club's ticket system. Therefore, it was pretty impossible to kind of do the priority arrangements for that game. Ramping up the kind of telephone capacity for a game where the demand was massively in excess of what we're used to. That's really tricky. But we have kind of put those arrangements in place. We trialled it for the Cheltenham game at the start of the season, where trust members alongside season ticket holders got priority, and that worked pretty well. So I think that there's some stuff, and a big kind of thumbs up and thank you to the club, to Jonathan and the team for helping to kind of incorporate that for trust membership.
The databases are linked up.
Yeah, so as we said, there's a single database, as Mike's saying there. So it's all on a single system. It enables us to manage that a lot better. There is something here around making sure that people, if you want to benefit from that, one of the things that the Cheltenham game showed, I think, for us was around you need to have an active ticket buying account with the club as well to make sure that it all works. So don't leave it until kind of a big game comes along and you want to get priority access to have put those arrangements in place, because I know, and I can see some faces around the room, I think Kev, you had some difficulty with that when we were doing it for the Cheltenham game. Just make sure you've got that account in place and you can benefit from that really easily then. Okay?
Sorry, going back to the ticket system.
Can I ask, just for the benefit of people remotely, sorry.
Hi, I'm Andy.
Amanda.
Going back to the ticket system, I think the problem was that the season ticket holders as well had problems because their tickets were already in basket and they didn't realise, and then they were ordering seats because they thought their seats had gone. So that was sort of messed up the system, I think, and then they got reallocated their seats later after the ticket season allocation expired. So I think that was a lot of confusion as well.
Okay, well that's maybe something that we can pick up with ticket office. Thank you for raising, Mandy. You know, we're always interested in how we can make those kind of arrangements better. So yeah, okay, we'll take that. We can, people want to come for break and then we'll quickly come back and cover off the kind of last of the questions. It looks like there's a few that are ready to do that, so we'll give it kind of 10 minutes or so and see you back for yeah, just about 10, just after 10 to 8. Okay, cancel. Hi all. Okay. If we can get kind of get started again. I'm not anticipating us kind of needing anything like another 45 minutes. Certainly not expecting us to play any added time at the end, because we've pretty well gone through most of the questions, certainly that were submitted in advance. We'll definitely come back to the floor there. We've had a couple more questions that have come in during the course of the evening, so we'll get through those. But hopefully then we'll get away kind of in a really timely manner. So I've got one from the Lucky Dip pool, which is definitely one kind of looking forward. So where do you think Newport County will be in 10 years' time? Have you got the crystal ball out?
Wish I could tell you. Yeah, the only, you know, the biggest thing I think to be cautious of, obviously, when you try to run a football club, is not, you can't go giving too many promises, because we know how tough football is, as we just witnessed this year, the ups and downs of winning and losing and drawing and all the things that come with League 2 football. But the only thing, I think the challenge for me when I got involved is, one was the financial one, which you wouldn't repeat that one again, but I think the other side, on the football side, is doing our best to better each season is a challenge from day one. That the points tally each season has to be a challenge, that you better it the following season. And you hope that if you continue on that path, you hope where it will lead us is obviously to bring more success. I think that has to be number one. I think if you try to look ahead, yeah, you have to have, you know, as we all do as football supporters, you've got to have belief and ambition in what you do. And I think the main part I would feel is I'd be disappointed if we didn't push for promotion and try to get to League 1, because I wouldn't have done it otherwise. I think getting back involved in football, and just this year to me was a big year as well, just apart from the team, but myself, to see what I think the standards of the league are, which initially surprised me, I suppose, because while we haven't got the big teams in this league, we've got, I think, generally most of the teams are strong and competitive. So that was something I think they've all had to get used to. But looking ahead to bring success over the next few years, you know, it has to be part of our belief as a football club. We're going to challenge for promotion and get up into League 1. That has to be the first. It's got to be the first step, and then you can probably review your ambition from there. But I think that has to be the first thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got back involved to make sure we have a successful football team.
I'm going to do a slight follow-up to that, so kind of host's prerogative here. How's the blood pressure been watching us on the pitch this year?
Yeah. As we said, we all know it's been up and down, and yeah, and funnily enough, when we've played better, I don't know, you'll all agree, when we've played better football sometimes this year, we've actually lost more games. So it has been challenging, to say the least. But yeah, it's something we all love, isn't it, to be involved in football, to have a team that that you're all behind and united to try and win, and that's you know, the be all and end all, and we'll always be shouting and usually swearing and going mad when we don't get what we want out of it. I fully understand that.
And I know from personal experience of watching Huw, he literally kicks every ball, so it's sometimes it's not a particularly pleasant experience on a Saturday afternoon for us, is it? Like everybody. So, okay. So, questions from the floor, I guess. I don't want to keep going to the list, and we've got a couple of hands up. So, I will go to the gentleman with a cap at the back if we can, and then we got a couple of others there. So we'll take those in the next order.
Good evening, Huw. My name is Paul Harper, better known as Harps. The people who know me. For my sins, I've been a supporter of the club for over 60 years now. From the first game when we got back in the league against Accrington Stanley, every year, one or two youngsters are talked about, they're coming through. Years go by, they might get one or two cameo appearances for the club. If they're lucky, some don't even get off the bench. You know, we've had the academy going all these years. I just find it so frustrating. You know, one or two cameo appearances, play well, everyone says, God, he's the boy for the future. And all of a sudden, no, he's gone out on loan at Chippenham, Salisbury, wherever it is. End of the season, we've had to let him go. Kids 18, 19 years old, how can anyone know at 18, 19 years that they're going to make it? One example, Don Jeffries got bombed out to Salisbury. He's playing for Lincoln now, Division 1. No good for us. It happens every year. 4 boys this year have gone out again to various clubs. I guarantee next year they won't be with us. What are you going to do to change it, Huw? At the end of the day, we've got an academy. It hasn't worked for the last 10 years. Something's really seriously got to change. We've got to produce these youngsters, get them in there, get money for them if they're good enough. You know, at the end of the day, what are we going to do, Huw? Please, thank you.
Yeah, I've seen your question when it came in online as well. So, yeah, the academy is always a big debate really in a football club. Fully understand that. I don't know how much you're aware. When I talk about things, I try to be as truthful and honest as I can. And the fact the academy is run for whenever it was reformed in Cat 3, was it? And whether we like it or not, the academy was losing about 200,000 roughly, which the club obviously and the trust are all helping to support that over the previous years. But I agree with you, the fact that the age group at 18 or 19, they obviously, there's a decision to be made whether they stay with the club or leave is a difficult one. Keeping some of the players after that age is difficult, perhaps for the previous owners that have been here, because you've got the challenge of trying to maximise your budget as well. Like one of the first questions, are we going to keep the experienced players? You keep the experienced players, they all want double what the others have. So you've got that balance all the time. In quite rightly what you said is making sure your academy players at least has got an opportunity and a chance. We have sent a few out on loan, and over the last few weeks we are trying to obviously make a decision. We are going to keep 5 or 6 this year from the under-18s. We're looking at ways to do that. Are they ready for first team football? No, because as you just said there, it's very difficult for them to do that step up and compete in the first team. But we have to find a way of doing it. I've got obviously my past. I was actually running Britain Ferry nearly 25, 30 years ago as a Welsh league club, and I was doing that then. So I got a lot of contacts in the Welsh league setup, and hopefully we can find a way of finding the finance needed to keep 5, 6, 7, 8 of them out on loan between the ages of 18 to 20. That then we can perhaps pick 1 or 2 that may be able to come back in and compete in the first team. But they need senior football. at 18 or 19, they need to be playing against men. The academy system, even up to 21s, even the Premier League or the Championship, that may be in Cat 1 or Cat 2 of the academy, they still don't fulfil the needs of what those young boys need. As we find when they come to us on loan, they go to other clubs at the ages of 21 and they still haven't kicked the ball against senior pros. And it doesn't work. In my view, a lot of the academy system doesn't work. If we can find a way of perhaps getting a group together that go out on loan in the Welsh League and compete against men, it gives us half a chance. Again, I don't know if you're aware, but some of the rules we've got to work within under the FAW, because we're in the FA with the EFL and the FAW rules, we can't loan players in and out like even the English clubs can do now. So we are handicapped in a lot of ways of moving our youngsters around. We can only do it during transfer windows, whereas if you've noticed at EFL clubs at the minute, they can move players to non-league and back now outside the transfer window. We can't. So we are, generally the Welsh clubs are handicapped to do that. We are trying to negotiate and find ways to help us to get over that hurdle. But I think for us as a club, if we can find the finance to keep 5 or 6 or maybe more, and they go out on loan, because that does allow to claw back some of the wages then of clubs like Britain Ferry and Barry and all them will pay. They will pay part of the player's wage if they feel the player's good enough and they use them. So there is a way to do that, and with the help of the trust as well, which are contributing to try and finance the academy. We are going to try and find a way to bridge that gap. And only time will tell what we can achieve by doing that.
And I think, Paul, the point that I would add to that, it is about that balance. He was right, you've got to get them senior football, but we all see, you've got to get the balance right there. A lot of the noise that we had kind of earlier on in the season around too much reliance on too many young players, it's a difficult balance to strike. But I definitely think it feels like it's an environment now where, as a club, we're prepared to try a bit more than we have done, certainly in the past. So, definitely, I think, a real positive for me. There were a couple of other hands up, so, yeah.
I'd just like to ask you about the pitch. I mean, I don't know if it's got a 10-year lifespan or whatever, but when it needs work or replacing, how is that split? Is it split half with you with the Dragons, or who would come in, and how would you fund something as expensive as that pitch?
Yeah, I don't know. Are you aware of the current deal? No, right. Well, again, I'll be as straight as I can. I think the current deal that when that pitch was relayed, obviously is 50-50 split with the Dragons and the football club, and we pay that on a yearly basis. We pay the Dragons back 50, 60k a year, something, whatever it is, and that's in the lease and in the current arrangement, with about 6 years to run on the current pitch. So as and when that needs not just yearly work of just repair work and maintenance, but if there's a capital cost in replacing it, no doubt that agreement will be reviewed, and we'll end up contributing and paying the Dragons over a period of time, like has been agreed and done in the past.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not showing lack of interest here. I know we've had a couple of questions come in, and there's only one way that I can get to that. I will take the other question from Adrian if we can for a second, and I'll dig out the questions that we've had coming in as we go. So, thanks, Dave.
Hi there. I was going to ask exactly the same question as Paul asked about the academy and how we can improve that. So I'm going to throw another one in instead. We're pretty scarce on options up front at the moment, especially now Hudlin's going to be out for a couple of weeks. is there any option to recall either Carbo or Jeffcott?
We can't, as I just mentioned, we can't, compared to other EFL clubs, we can't bring them back. So no is the answer. And the only other option, obviously, which we had on Saturday was Jeff Boney, come on sub. But obviously, Josh Martin and Michael Spellman in particular have played centrally and played as forwards. And if needed, they'll have to obviously step in and do that. So that's where we're at with that question.
Okay, thanks Adrian for the question. So one that's come in during the course of the night related to the kind of the Rodney Parade lease. So it was originally said by Mr. Jenkins, it's very respectful, isn't it? That the financial terms for using Rodney Parade was uneconomic and untenable. Now that a new 10-year lease has been signed, can we assume that the owners of the stadium have made significant financial concessions?
Yeah, I think that Jonathan Wilshire in particular has been at the forefront of negotiating with the Dragons to bring us to the conclusion of the lease. I think we're reasonably happy. With any negotiation, we'll always want it cheaper and they'll want to charge us more. That's never going to change in an agreement. I think there's a comfortable balance at the minute between us, and I think it's great that we've found a way to get that deal signed and forge a better working relationship, which is important for us going forward. So there's no back to that question. Yes, we've gained in some ways and bent in others, but we found a deal that suited both parties really in the end.
Thanks, Huw. Okay, so all right, we got another one in the room there, yeah, please.
Chris Thomas is my name. I just want to know about the squad. Obviously, we just touched on it just now about the centre forward role, but the rest of the squad, as in the injured players, can you tell us any more information? How long these players are going to be out for?
Any ones in particular, or just general?
Wilding and Hudlin.
Yeah, Hudlin, it said, was a strange one, wasn't it? He come on and scored, and the following morning, after all of that, he says he got a slight strain in his calf. So that's about 6 weeks from the time, but maybe a little bit less, but around those sort of weeks, really, 6 weeks. Wildick, obviously, he done his ACL, which is a different one, and we'd be lucky to, obviously, we won't see him playing this season. And hopefully he recovers well, and he's up and at it during the summer and ready for next season. But that, on those two in particular, yeah, that's where they are with that.
Just wonder whether they might be back before the end of the season.
Yeah, it's Adlin, yes, I'd say. As I said, probably 5 weeks away. Kieran Evans will be back shortly. He's only a week or so away. Kai Whitmore is only he's probably back in training tomorrow, available probably the weekend. So that's most of them really, I think. Yeah, Tom Davis is he's a little bit longer again because he had the strange one with that injury, and yeah, I think he was about 12 weeks, I think, which was quite a long one for him, being a young player, getting that straight away. But yeah, and that's where we are with Tom, which is back to the Salford game, I think. So yeah, I can't think of anybody else, is there?
Ollie
Greaves. Ollie Greaves?
Ollie Greaves was available on the weekend. Yeah, he just won in the squad. Yeah. Yeah, Brennan is he had obviously done his shoulder in Port Vale to do with his collarbone, and he's close, probably 2 weeks away at the minute.
All right, thank you, Huw, and thank you for the question. Any more from the room? Otherwise I'll go back to the list. We've only got a couple left on the list at best, so get your thinking hats on if you want to ask another one. So this was submitted by Keith last night. Not sure I understand the question here, and you'll see why, but what are your interests and hobbies outside football? There isn't anything outside football, is there?
No, I read that. Yeah, I think once you get back into football, in any capacity full time, it's you haven't got time for anything really. And you can ask my family. I think everything gets taken up morning, night, and day with football, and yeah, and there's everything else gets put second to it really.
Okay. So we've got last minute ones coming in, so I'm going to take those if we can. It's a bit of a repeat of the previous one. What are we doing around training facilities for the first time? First team, yeah, long-term plans. Yeah, I think we've covered that one already, that we're looking for those options. So, sorry Lee if you missed that question at the start, but yeah, we are looking at what those options are, including I guess talking to the council, but looking at any kind of opportunities around trying to find a suitable piece of land for us to give us those facilities. Okay. That is my list of questions exhausted. Any more that anybody wants to ask? Okay, Ellie, just while we have the chance.
Meaford? I think we did really good with the loan market this season for both the January and summer window. Are we looking at keeping any of the players on loan permanently, as some of them do have contracts right now into this summer? Because I think some of them have had an instant impact, such as Ajaboy. Evans has become a key part of this team. But when he's fit and huddling, the only one really, Miley, was unfortunate, didn't play enough to get into the team and was recorded sold off by Newcastle. So with their contracts right now, are we looking at signing them on permanently, or are we looking at other potential players coming in with the summer transfer window? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. As you said, a few of the loan players have worked well for us. I think there's two things. One, obviously, we will look at them, and talk to them between now and the summer, and see how things go with them, playing for us between now and then, and see how well they suit. And obviously, if our manager was here, he can tell you probably the same things. But I think we will look at various options to make sure we don't get, as I said at the start, we don't get focused on one player or one thing, and make sure that we down a route that we don't feel comfortable doing financially. There's two things. One, the players will come to us on loan to help us, but we can't forget they're also looking at their own personal issues and making sure that they get options from their agents in the summer to go around, and it gives them a chance to perform well and perhaps find a deal in the summer that suits them. So I think we're open-minded, is going back to that one, open-minded with speaking to them and looking at other options as well.
And I guess it's probably worth making the point as well, particularly around the style of football that we're playing. It makes you a bit more attractive to clubs, to loan players to you, because they know what the style of football is, and they will likely get some game time. But again, trying to get that balance of not too many kind of risky ones, I suppose. My auctioneer's eye spotted that Ed had his hand raised there, so we got one right down the front here, if we can. Very worried you're going to kick over your Guinness there as well.
No. Just on the point about injuries, all football fans, we all think our club is cursed when it comes to injuries, but we really do think we're cursed. Is it something that concerns you as the chairman? Is it something that concerns Jardim as head coach, the number and the seriousness of the injuries that we've had over this season? Is it something that you consider to be particularly unusual or severe, or is it just part of the price of doing business.
Yeah, my personal feeling is I think this year has been better than what I watched last year. You know, we talked about Kieran Brennan earlier. You know, he dislocated his shoulder. You can't do much about that on a pitch. Kai Whitmore's injury was a tackle in Salford. You could say Hudlin hadn't had much game time in minutes, perhaps, and then he comes on the field and does it, and certainly not overuse, you know, all that. And training has probably dropped a fair bit over the last probably 6 weeks with the amount of games we've had. But I think the other big thing to consider, which we talked on, and it's not you know, I don't like to go on about it, but we do struggle with the training facilities. They do move from pitch to pitch. Some people complain when they train on AstroTurf, like we sometimes go to Cardiff Uni to do that when the weather's bad. The Sputty pitch at the minute is shocking for our boys to train on. We've had a couple of twisted ankles and different things, and you can hardly pass a ball from A to B without it bouncing a foot off the floor. The standard of what they got to train in at the minute is not good. The FAW pitches are not bad. Pitch 1 and pitch 2 with FAW. And go back to Clarkey's injury. Clarkey done an injury up in USW when the pitch was bad in Pontypridd in training. So those things have hindered probably before I was here as well. You know, it's been difficult for the club in general. But until we actually get a stable base that they can train on the same surface day in, day out, there's always going to be some issues. But it's something that I think you've all done well in Newport over the years, and we do it now. We just got to get on with it. That's our facilities. That's what we got as a base. And when the players come here, they know full well they just got to get on with it, and we treat it like that.
Thank you, Huw. Thanks, Ed. So I've got one last question. So we said that we would kind of try and make sure that we got through the list. So this one comes from Oscar, was submitted in advance. It sounds a bit like a Hollywood blockbuster movie here, so it's not When Harry Met Sally. When did and how did Huw meet Nelson?
Yeah, it's quite a long time ago. Yeah, and Nelson come to my attention when Paulo Sousa joined Swansea City back in the Championship. I can't remember what year it was. But Nelson was working with Paulo Sousa as an assistant coach. I got to know him then, and obviously he left and worked with Paulo in Leicester and on a few other things with Paulo, and we kept in touch. And then after that, probably many years after, he came back and worked at Swansea City, and I got to know him quite well then, and he worked as an assistant coach with many of the other coaches there. And I would say, I'll come back and elaborate a bit on Nelson if you want to. I think looking for a coach in the summer was difficult. Finding one that would just work with us as a football club and help to take us forward, but knowing the way we were going to work, which was changing a lot of the players around, going for a younger squad, many inexperienced players coming in, all those things. Which whenever I meet potential managers, coaches, I don't mince your words. You tell them as clear and straight as it is, because you don't want any issues afterwards. They need to know what's on offer with us and what we're planning to do. So it was imperative to bring somebody in that would clearly work with us going forward. Yes, there's always a risk when your coach is relatively inexperienced as a number one, and the players are quite inexperienced. And obviously, I at that time I was prepared to take that risk, knowing that bringing perhaps a more experienced coach in, it could have ended up falling out anyway with the way we were doing things with players and the way we were looking to go forward as a club. So it was more important to make sure you had somebody on board that was fully behind the club and what we wanted to do, and take those risks, and hopefully, as the season progressed, which I'm glad it has, that everybody gains an experience, not only the players but the coach as well, as I think he's done 36 games with us, or 35 games, and I think those things, grow and develop, and I'm pleased it has done. But coming back to Nelson, number one, I knew him well. He was a good person. He would be honest and trustworthy to work with, and work with us as a club going forward, and all the things that we had to deal with. So that was, I knew him, and I took the risk and took the decision to bring him into the club, and and I'm pleased that it's been a process, but I'm pleased we get in there and everybody's settling down and starting to look the part, him as a coach and the team on the pitch.
Okay. Thanks, Huw. I'll come back to Ollie. We've had a couple of questions online, and Mandy, from Alexander and James. We've pretty well covered them all, so just for the benefit of them, I'm not ignoring them. It was around plans for a future stadium, what's our ultimate goal. We did some discussions around kind of where we thought it would be in 10 years' time, and then plans on kind of renewing contracts with some of our more experienced players. So I think we've picked that up. You should be able to watch the video back if anybody kind of missed the questions, but I think we probably ought to spare people kind of hearing the same answers again who are in the room, but you should be able to see that. So Ollie and then Andy.
Thank you very much again, Oliver Allen. Whilst we're just touching on Nelson, in a night of seamless flow, so I want to check one out for the 1912 Exiles podcast, who managed to get an interview with Nelson. There's obviously a very sensitive situation with him having his own family back in Portugal. Is it public knowledge, or could you comment on the length of Nelson's contract? Is he committed long term? Where is Nelson in the sort of long term view of the club?
Thanks for the question. Initially Nelson came in, he agreed to just a 1-year contract. People probably know me. I would whatever coaches or managers I talk to make sure that the contracts are good for the club. That's what it's for. It's not it's number one. It has to be negotiated that suits us, and he agreed to that. You're right, but the other side of it, his family and his wife are in Madeira, and he got those issues obviously to live away from them. He got 2 young kids, and he's got to obviously make that choice that he has done. But yes, he signed a 1-year deal with us, and between now and the end of the season, we'll talk and see how things go. But I can assure everybody here, I'll do what always is right for the club and for us, and we'll see what develops between now and the summer.
Thanks, Huw. Thanks for the question, Ollie, and then I think Mandy.
Going back to the trust funds and the contribution to the academy, obviously we were going through a bad patch, and there were, I would say, people were disappointed about what was going on in the club, and there were talks on the chat page that people were not paying into the trust anymore. Did that actually have an effect on the funding into the trust?
So definitely one for me to take, I suppose. So a couple of angles to this. Obviously always really disappointed when people vote with their feet from the trust. So we have some interesting stuff around membership, which inevitably peaks when you have a big priority ticketing game. So our numbers went up significantly for the Man United game, some of those being for quite short-term memberships. So since then we have seen kind of the numbers drop off. I mean, that's always disappointing. It hasn't kind of affected us kind of significantly. Obviously, anyone that we lose is less money that comes into the trust, and therefore less money potentially that can be used and put towards those kind of community projects, including with the for the football club. I mean, there's something, I'll take the opportunity, I haven't cleared it with the board, but one of the things that we did as a result of that increased membership that we had following the Man United game and the increased subscriptions there, we generated a bigger profit as a trust, a surplus as a trust than we would otherwise have done. And one of the things that we sort of looked at was around, well, what's the best use that we can make of that? And on the back of some of the kind of the things that Huw has pointed to there around the kind of increased costs we've got of running the academy now, that we very recently took a decision as a board that we would put some more money into the football club to fund that. So the decision that we've taken on that, within the kind of parameters that the trust is able to kind of provide money and what that money should be used for. So we have benefited from the kind of surge in membership that we had from the Man United game. The drop-off is disappointing. Again, doing an unashamed plug. We genuinely really value all the contributions that trust members make. It probably feels as important as it's ever felt, because for all the reasons that Huw was mentioning there, it's a really important contribution that the trust makes to the club, as well as some of that wider work. So if anybody, please do continue to be a member if you're already a member, and if you're not, there are facilities over at the side over there to sign up tonight. So it's every pound helps when you're running a low budget football club, and all those things that we want to try to do to help support football in the community, it all helps. So disappointing, not being catastrophic, but we want to try to do some things, and we'll look at the kind of activities that we can do to try to encourage people back, whether it's the Team Exiles we were talking about earlier, whether it's Club Spitty, whether it's the kind of the adult membership. We're really keen to kind of promote that.
Yeah, I think as as the trust board, we all understand the frustrations. Clearly, things have got a little bit better on the pitch over the last 6 games, which we were all very happy about. But I'll be a little bit blunter than Annie, because if we have a bad time on the pitch, cancelling your trust membership does not help the club whatsoever. Aside from the benefits that are there, as has been said, that money is going to run elements of the club that are so important for us going forward, your community bits and the academy and the long-term picture. So yeah, there's frustration. Everyone takes their frustrations out, but cancelling your trust membership, frankly, doesn't help. It doesn't help with a long-term view of what we're going to do. I said I'd be a bit more blunt.
Okay, that's my list of questions done here. Any more from the floor before we kind of bring proceedings to a close? Okay, all right, doesn't look like it. So I just wanted to just a couple of wrap-up things really. So firstly, I said at the start, this is the first of these that we're going to do this season. We are committed to doing a second one, at least 2 under the kind of the Football Supporters Association rules. So look out for another one of these. Genuine thanks to Huw and Mike for joining me today. Thanks to Jonathan and the club staff for helping to kind of promote and arrange, particularly using things like the club's ticketing facility. So huge for that. Thanks to Mandy and the team at Rodney Parade for helping kind of host us tonight. So, because if the bar wasn't open, it wouldn't be such an enjoyable experience for people. But most important, I guess, thanks to you for your continuing support, whether that's out there for things that are happening on the pitch, or whether it's kind of coming to events like this, the trust, the season tickets. That's huge for the club, and it's absolutely massive. So really appreciate that. It's great that we've got a bit more success going on the field. That always helps to get people's enthusiasm and get people into the ground. Do get family, friends to come and watch us on a Saturday or a Tuesday. But genuinely, thanks very much to all for your contributions, including the questions, and for kind of honouring that kind of ask around being respectful tonight. I think we've got a huge amount out of it. So thank you very much, and see you at the far post.